Welcome to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. I'm Deborah Deras, your host and top Latina peak performance speaker. Each week, you will learn from top experts in the speaking industry, insider secrets of what works and what doesn't, so that you can monetize your expertise. My intention is to be your speaking coach, to provide you with resources and experts that have done it before you so that you can get your message out into the world faster and easier. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. This is Deborah Deras, your host and Latina peak performance keynote speaker. And I am so excited today. I think that it's been 6 or 8 weeks that I've been anticipating bringing you my special guest for today. And he, as soon as I met him, like within the first 15 seconds, I was already motivated. I was already inspired. And just his story and who he is and what he does and where he comes from is really going to get you fired up. So what I'm going to invite you to do is get out a piece of paper, or if you have your laptop next to you, because this is going to be an episode that you're going to want to take notes, because guess who I have? I have Dan, and he has spent over a decade working on different college campuses with fraternities and sororities while having a side hustle, listen to this, side hustle, as a facilitator and a speaker. However, in August of this year, Dan decided to take that leap of faith and go full time in his speaking career. And today we're going to talk about how to quit your job and go full time as a speaker. Please help me welcome Mr. Dan Faill. Hello, Dan.
Hello, hello.
The crowd goes wild. I don't even need to have an applause track because I'm excited for everyone. I'm the representative for everyone that's listening because I know that their ears are perking up. What? You quit your day job? Tell us, Dan. Before we get even into your speaking career, I think that everyone would love to know about you. Who are you? What is your background so that we can understand where you're coming from when it comes to your speaking? Tell us about Dan.
Okay, yeah, thanks. And lovely introduction. I'm going to need you to follow me around and do that whenever I go speaking places, because that was
no problem.
Yeah, so my name is Dan Faill. It is pronounced Faill, like to flunk, but I have 2 L's on the end because, go twice as hard. So yeah, I'm originally from North Carolina. Was very involved as a student and a student leader, realized that I had a passion for getting involved with students and really being kind of there with them and helping them develop during, those transformational years in college. So I realized that I needed to go to graduate school. So being from North Carolina, I said, I want to be close to family and friends. I actually ended up going to graduate school at University of the Pacific, which is in Northern California. So I moved from, the right coast to the left coast, and have almost been out here ever since in California. So I live in Los Angeles now, and have been kind of on and off, like you mentioned in the introduction, been doing a side hustle speaking for almost a decade, and just recently decided to take a big leap and go full time, and have loved every second of it.
I love people from North Carolina, I have to tell you. I did a speaking
in our veins.
At the Minority Development Carolina Conference, North and South Carolina. And the first thing when I got off the plane was like, would you like a hush puppy? I was like, I love this place. I don't know what a hush puppy is, but I know it's got to be fried and I know it's got to be good.
Exactly.
No wonder you're so nice. The Southern hospitality is something to be loved, but the California weather is, of course, we love it.
Oh, yes, ma'am, all around.
Yeah. So how did you get started? So 10 years ago, you had a passion for helping students, but what got you on the stage? What got you that microphone in your hand and being able to create that and carve that into a career?
Yeah. So I had a friend who worked at a university here in Southern California. And he said, hey, Dan, I need you to, would love for you to tell a story and talk to some of my new students kind of about your experiences as a fraternity sorority man, as an advisor, And by the way, I can pay you a little bit of money. And I remember thinking, you're going to
Ooh
pay
la
me,
la,
right? You're going to
money.
pay me to talk to some people. And so that couple $100, I said, this is amazing. And then to have some students come up right afterwards saying, hey, this was really entertaining. It was funny. I felt challenged in a good way. And so I kind of took that as a light bulb moment of, oh, I enjoyed every second of that. I enjoyed putting together this custom, presentation that I now still give a very similar presentation to this day. And so I really attribute my
Wow.
start to him. And again, it was 10 miles away at a different campus, but because it's Los Angeles, took about 20, 30, 45 minutes to get there. But um,
Right.
he and I would do that about every year or so. He would bring me back to campus because the students just enjoyed it so much.
Awesome. And just the feeling and seeing their eyes light up and they're just the connection that you have with people. It's unlike anything
Oh yeah,
else.
my absolute favorite is the students who come in and they sit down, they're grumpy, they've got their arms crossed, like they don't
Right.
here, and so, but I like to think within a few minutes they kind of perk up, and then usually those students who are wearing their sunglasses the entire program are the ones that come up afterwards and say, hey, you know what, that wasn't horrible, thank you. That's a win. Sometimes that's a win.
Exactly. And it could be scary and intimidating for people that aren't used to being in front of a crowd to get up there with a crowd that isn't receptive. How are you able to transmute any anxiety or any nerves that you had when you first started?
Oh, girl, I still get those nerves. I think some of it is using the nerves to an advantage. So I'm not
Mm,
one that stands behind a podium. I'm one that moves around the stage. I tell all kinds of different stories, and so for me, using that nervous energy to excite me, and then to kind of like not necessarily rile up the crowd, but to get the audience more engaged in my excitement. Because I think if you show excitement in your topic, they're going to automatically be a little bit more excited about you.
And I think one of the things that's very unique about you and that makes you a very sought after speaker is that you have a very specific niche. I always tell my coaching clients clarity is cash, niche and grow rich, right? Can
Yep.
you talk about your niche and how you discovered it or how it discovered you?
Well, I think some of it, like we mentioned in the introduction, I've worked with fraternities and sororities for almost 15 years now. And part of that came from just my positive experience, but some of my stories come from the negative experience as well. Um, my niche, so to speak, is talking to students about the intersections of alcohol and consent, knowing that there are times when on a college campus, events or parties are being held, and we don't understand what alcohol does to our body. We don't understand how, the concepts of being blacked out or being a functional blackout or the data that goes along with it, how memories are made. Can you consent when the first drop of alcohol, or what does that look like? And what's the definition of consent, and how do we really understand it? So that's really most recently what I've been talking a lot about with college students. I've also started to do a little bit more work with masculinity and understanding what that's like, and working
Ooh.
with college age men on understanding that. And then, because, like I said, I've been involved with fraternities and sororities forever, because I believe in our ability to change the world and to do better. I still do a lot of work. Like I said, that first keynote that I give, I still give some iterations of it, with understanding leadership and failure, again, because my last name's Faill, so we fail forward together.
Perfect branding. Perfect branding. Oh, I love it. Masculinity. It's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. I really want to hear one of your speeches. I got to go search YouTube. Is anything online that we can see?
There's some old videos that are there. I'm actually going to work with a video production company at a conference this spring to get some good, of me talking rather than just kind of students saying, here's what I learned, to get some
Right.
good visuals and audio from that.
So, speaking of that, I know that you're with a speakers bureau and that they are booking you speaking engagements. Can you tell people that don't know how to work with bureaus or how you got discovered by that bureau? Because I think that's a real asset that you have to really get out there.
It truly is. After signing with Campus Speak, I would say that I've done so much better as a speaker, both developing my own message, but then also being able to get out there more. So about 9 years ago, I come back to I come back to one of my dad's philosophies that it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew someone at this agency. They had seen me facilitate before, and so they said, "Hey, we're bringing in a new set of facilitators. I want you to like you have to apply. If you apply, you're going to get in." It's like, okay, great. I love those job opportunities. Um, so I applied, was a facilitator for many years, and then facilitating on the side, speaking on the side, and what actually applied to be a speaker with Campus Speak was denied my first year after applying because, hey, you know what? My, like I said, last name's Faill. Got to live up to got to live up to it. But I also talk about perseverance, so I applied again a year and a half ago and was accepted, and have just been at it ever since. But the agency itself is one of the top agencies for college speakers in the nation, and so I knew that if I was going to sign with anyone for colleges and universities to get my word out, it was going to be that company. And I told them that from the get-go.
And what did they give you any feedback, or did you just intuitively know how to improve when you applied again?
I did receive feedback from the CEO. He called me personally and said, "Hey, here's some feedback for you. We would love to see this improve in terms of like articulating your message, or what your descriptions are, what your learning outcomes are." And so really kind of took the time after getting over and throwing myself a pity party, really decided, all right, I can do this. I know I can do this. And I put my best foot forward, and there it was.
It's so interesting because you could be the best speaker, but if your descriptions and the copy that describes your speech
Mm-hmm.
doesn't convey that, it could stop people from booking you. So I've interviewed a lot of people on this podcast that say hire a copywriter, like to write that out because
Mm-hmm.
it's so important. I don't know if you use a copywriter or if you just write your copy yourself, but it's so vital.
I could completely see the value in that.
And so are you with the Speakers Bureau and then you're also booking speaking engagements on your own? Are you independent?
So technically independent, but anything that's at a college university, I do put through the Campus Speak. So I put through my bureau. And so anything that's corporate or high school, any of that, I can take on. Or if I
Hmm.
don't want to have to deal with the contract, if I don't want to have to deal with the collections, if I don't want to have to deal with some of the additional headaches of being solo, that I can also put that through the company, through the bureau.
I feel it is so worth the percentage that you pay a Speakers Bureau to deal with
Oh,
all of that. It's hours and hours in conversations. It's like, oh my goodness, if
mhm.
somebody can do it, let them, right?
Exactly, and that's the approach that I've taken. I was on my own for 2 years before I signed with the bureau, and the worst feeling is the hey, I had a great time. By the way, I need you to pay me because you're 4 weeks late.
Oh my God. I had a company, a very famous company that was like a year late, Dan. And they were ordering a limo for me on my credit card. And then I guess they were going to pay for it eventually, but I would have taken a taxi. Okay. I didn't need a limo. But in the beginning, how did you go from like $200 a speech to I'm sure the thousands of dollars that you're getting paid now?
Mhm.
How did you know how to charge and how to negotiate your contracts?
Um, and that was really an evolution of myself and my own self worth.
Mm.
So I think in the beginning, asking for more than 500 felt like I was having a heart attack. And so, because in higher education, I think that there's a lot of, oh, well, I want to be able to cut the best deal possible, and I want to help friends that need the help, and am I really worth someone paying me to tell this story? Um, and some of it actually came down to I need to charge just for my time. I had kids, and so it was like, all right, well, if you're going to take me away from my kids on a Saturday morning or a full weekend, I need to, I need to be able to be compensated for some of that. And so asking a little bit more here and there, and then fast forward a couple years, and this was probably maybe 3 years ago now. I had another friend who is a professional speaker who kind of specializes in being a conference MC. And he sat me down, he was my coach, and sat me down and said, Dan, what are you worth? And
Mm.
how much does it cost for you to stay in the area? And then how much is it going to cost for you to leave the area? What's your worth? And I have another friend who is just an amazing best friend and turned into kind of like a life coach too. But he said that we've got to be able to see our own self-worth and ask for that, and knowing that who we are is good enough and what we can bring to the table is also good enough. And so um, I started to ask for more. I remember the first time I asked for multiple thousands, I again had that heart attack, that anxiety. And there was no question. There was no back and forth. I asked for 4,000 and they said, okay. And I was like, oh, I should ask for.
I know. I know. I did that 2 days ago. I'm still doing that sometimes. And they're like, oh, great. That's all. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
plus this. Yeah.
Yeah. I, I love that. So, everyone, write this down. What is your worth? And I know my mentor, that was my speaking coach and still is, does like affirmations and a lot of inner self confidence work all the time because she's, cold calling companies and pitching herself for like $100,000 contracts and deals. And you need to really believe in yourself because as a speaker, we're not paid per hour. We're paid by value and
Mm-hmm.
expertise. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we really need to own and educate people that don't know that this is how it works because
Exactly.
I'm sure there's been some organizations when you said your price that were like, "What are you talking about?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then some of it is just oh, well, that's not in our budget. Okay, well, what is in your budget? And I've turned down a couple that were not insulting, but if that was their budget, then they should look at someone in house, or and I've led them in other directions to say, hey, you could consider this person, you could consider that person, that could deliver, another experience that they're looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. I actually, when I mentor people, will refer them for speaking engagements that maybe aren't a fit for
Mm-hmm.
me, but it would be a good fit for them. So I think that's really important that you are able to say no because I said yes to this college one time and I guess it was the leadership and they weren't very organized and then it ended up falling through and I missed a huge corporate gig. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes saying no allows us to say yes to opportunities. And I know that there is no yes until there's a security deposit and a contract signed.
Mm-hmm.
No conversation or email is a gig.
You're
So,
right.
what has been some of the lessons that you've learned as a professional speaker that you wish you could tell other speakers sitting in an audience wanting to know, what should I know?
I think for me, what resonated most is that my story is good enough. I don't need to quote other people
Mm,
if what I have is of value, or if what I
right.
have can help others along the way. Um, and that really came from my friend James. He really helped me understand that, yes, I have a great presence, but I don't need to tell other people's stories because I have
Hmm.
a wealth of different stories to use and to reference. Um, and then I think also just life lessons is it's okay to fail.
Ah,
That
yes.
is right, like, but at the same time to really understand that you're gonna give a bad keynote, you're going to not get a program accepted, but it's that resiliency, it's the kind of the how we pick ourselves back up that's really going to help define our own worth and what we can see in ourselves.
Ooh, I'm glad you said that. So there's always going to be one that you bomb.
Oh, hands down.
Oh my God, the one that I bombed, I had pneumonia and it was like a
Mm.
thousand people. And my mom was in the audience too that day and I was crying. She's like, you did so good. I'm like, I know I could have done, your levels of bringing
We're
it where
so
it's,
hard on ourselves. We are
uh,
so hard on ourselves, and I think that's where it's okay to give us permission to not be perfect.
yeah. And speaking as a business is so hard. Like the physical aspect of traveling and being in a
Mm-hmm.
different hotel and adjusting to different climates and different time
Yeah,
zones
this
and
is my
it's
first day. This is my first day home in 12 days.
wow.
Mhm.
Oh
And this was my
really?
shortest trip of the semester.
Wow. Cuz one of the things that you talked to me about is in addition to speaking, you also do consulting, which
Yeah.
is another very lucrative stream of income. Can
Mhm.
you talk about that and how you got into that?
Yeah, so again, a lot of this falls within that realm of being an involved student leader, but then really engaging with fraternity and sorority men and women. Is so the consulting that I do specifically is with Launch Point Consulting, which they specialize in offering innovative recruitment consulting and coaching sessions for fraternities and sororities. Again, we believe that quality grows quantity, so that if you have better quality members, the quantity of them will also improve. And so really I've worked this semester a lot with different organizations, where they're starting some, whether that be kind of going into a group. In fact, this past week I was with a group of almost 100 men, and so of course they think, well, we've already got 100 guys, we don't, like, we're fine in terms of our numbers. I said, yeah, but you could look around and point to a guy and be like, oops, that was probably not a great choice of membership.
Right.
And so that's where it's what are our eligibility standards? What do we want to see happen? How can we structure ourselves to be the most successful? So that's just been amazing to come in and understand and help a group understand themselves. So doing a SWOT analysis with them, helping them really dig deep of why do they do what they do, as opposed to just figuring out the motions, and how do they talk about it.
Mm-hmm. And so you speak, and then sometimes you'll be doing the consulting for an extended period of time, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a separate contract, or are you bundling everything together?
It's all separate contracts.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And if you're going to get on a plane, you might as well get as much bang for your buck if you're going to be away, right?
That is definitely part of it. Well, and some of it is some of the last minute, hey, we need someone in Reno for 2 days. Great, I'll be there. Hey, we need someone in Syracuse, New York for 2 weeks. I'm like, is it snowing? No? Great, I'm there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's been amazing to work with some of the groups that I've worked with so far this semester. But some of it is very last minute of, great, I happen to be around and I'll be there. Let me book a flight.
And when you were thinking about doing your speaking career full time, because I know it would be a big leap of faith to quit your day job, did you factor in the travel, and is that something that you felt was, good with your lifestyle, or is it something that was kind of a surprise?
I think as much travel as I'm doing was a surprise. I think, shout out to Southwest,
I love Southwest.
because that's who I fly with, and I've saved probably $500 since August just on the no fees to change flights.
Right.
Yeah, because that has been a godsend in so many ways. Of, not charging to check a bag because I'm gone for 3 weeks and there's no way I could live out of a carry-on for 3 weeks.
Hmm.
And being able to do that. And um, did I factor it in? I tried to. Did I factor it in successfully? No. Do I know what to look for in the spring? Yes.
Yeah, and that's part of it. The core. I find in the speaking industry that it's very much feast or famine. That it's like so many gigs, constantly on the road, and then I'm like, why am I home? What's going on? What am I
Yep.
doing here?
Yep. Yep. And that'll be me. So I've got one more work trip that's a week long, and then I'm done until early January.
Awesome. And do you have a book?
No, I do not, but that is also what I will be working on this winter.
I feel a book coming from you, and I would love to read it. I'm just so fascinated by everything that you talk about, and it's so needed. I mean, I don't know any other speakers that talk on your topic.
Oh my gosh! So I know a few that talk about
Hmm.
sexual assault
Hmm.
and masculinity and understanding, men and women's empowerment, and they are absolutely stellar.
Mm.
What I try to tackle is that the intersection of alcohol and consent and what that really means in terms of the environments that are created. And I don't know of any others. If they are out there, would love to touch base and just compare notes of how can we both be better or all of us be better.
Yeah, if I meet them in my podcast interviews, I'll let you know. So, what advice do you have for new speakers that are starting out? What would you say are the three pieces of marketing materials or strategies that they need to really be able to quit their job and be paid full time as a speaker?
Mm-hmm. What I still am learning to do is follow up on leads.
Yes.
And anything and everything is a lead. So making sure to keep that database and the continued follow up. And I've yet to do it this fall. It has been on my to do list and has just stayed. on my to-do list. And I could say that, and so this is one of those learning lessons. I could say that I've just been too busy to do it, but I think part of it is I've just not prioritized it. And so
Right.
not letting myself use excuses, because again, they set you up for failure. The more excuses you give yourself. So owning that, and I've got a friend who holds me accountable to it,
Oh, that's good.
as best as we can. So um, I think in terms of like marketing materials and things like that, what I never thought would work well are postcards. And so the speakers bureau that I'm with, we do postcards, every now and then, probably once in the fall, once in the spring. Uh, it's a decent investment, but it actually gives a pretty good ROI for what we're
Oh,
able to do. And we'll do hey, Dan is in your area and we can offer this discount, or and the agency that I'm with really does a great job supporting. And so I look forward and I continue to challenge them, and they challenge me of like, all right, how can we be innovative? What else could we do that's different types of traditional marketing, that we can go out on a limb? And I tell them I'm down to try innovative ideas, and I think that's where I would challenge us as general speakers of how can we get our messages out there in different ways that aren't traditional.
yeah. That's a really great idea. One of the things recently when I did a speech for an HR association, they wanted me to do like a 1 minute video
Mm-hmm.
just talking about what I was going to talk about to tease to get more people to come. And it really worked. I mean, I think they expected like 150 people and they got 300 people. I was like, oh, I've never done that before, where I do a
Mm-hmm.
video before the event to get people to the event. Uh, so that was interesting and
Yeah.
new.
Along the same lines, the agency, Campus Speak, they one of the other speakers basically said, "Hey, I'm launching this new program. I'm launching this new keynote." Did the quick, 30-second, 1 minute tease, and it went out in an email, and it did really well. And so we've done
Ooh.
that a couple times of just, "Hey, here's what we want to talk about," and people can watch it. Boom, click, click and book.
And is that something that you do? Do you have an email that you send out to people that have been in your audience or prospects?
The company does that.
Oh,
The bureau does.
fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of the things that I have written on my wall, it says the fortune is in the follow-up. What are and it says top IPAs today, income producing activities. And of course, it's sizzle reel, sizzle reel, sizzle reel. It's been like on my to-do list
Yep.
forever. And I have like 5 people available to do my sizzle reel. It's just getting the footage. Do you have any advice for new speakers on getting good footage so that they can have a sizzling sizzle reel?
One is invest in it. I think if you're going
Mm.
to do it, if you're going to do it right, find a local company. You don't even have to put an ad out there. There's so many different websites that you could just say, "Here's what I'm looking to do," and then people will come out of the woodwork. And find the right production company or find the right videographer that can give you what you're looking for. So one of the things that I've started to do is watch other people's sizzle reel,
Ah, yeah, me
find the
too.
ones that I feel speak to my style, and then
Ah,
that as the example of this is the feel, this is the dynamic that I'm hoping for. Um,
oh,
one of my other speaking friends, he's fresh in the game, has only been speaking for a few years now, and is just crushing it. He, I love and I hate this kid because he will basically give his phone to someone in the front row, and it's like, hey, can you take a couple of like pictures here and there, uh, and some of the photos that he gets in action he'll put on social media, and I'm like, do you just pay a professional photographer to follow you around? And he says, no, I'll just end up with 200-300 photos from a different gig or something, and picks one or two of the best ones and post them. Like, that's
wow, genius.
absolute genius. And so based off that, I said, all right, I'm upgrading my phone. So I went out, bought a new phone, which, tax deductible, and
Right?
because I'm using it. And I've gotten some better photos already that I'll use for just some of those smaller social media pushes.
And that's the thing with having millennials in your audience because they know how to take pictures.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
they could they could turn your smartphone, yeah, and that's why I got an Android. So I have like an iPhone that I use for calling, but
Mhm.
my Android is the, you know, the one that takes the money shots.
I
It
went ahead and
was
upgraded because I've just been a iPhone user for so long, and apparently the new technology scares me. But I upgraded to the XS because it feels excessive, but the XS Max, and so I was like, all right, we're going hard.
ooh la la.
Mm-hmm.
So I love what you talked about with the procrastination part, with the
Mm-hmm.
follow-ups and the database, because that's, as speakers, that's not our natural thing. Our natural thing is being extroverted, being outside, connecting with people, that whole emotional transformation. Sitting in front of a computer and doing database stuff is boring. It's
Oh yeah.
introverted, right?
Well,
It's
and that's
not
where, well, like when you and I met, that's where we met at that common workspace. That's I was going there. I was doing my receipts. I was doing
oh
the
good.
background administrative, all the things that I did not even remotely think about. But that's where I'll do some of the best work because I know, yes, I could set up a home office. I also know myself well enough to know I'm going to be productive. I'm going to be like, oh, look, Netflix, or oh, look, here's a book that I wanted to read, and just
I
not.
start mopping the floor, Dan, and I don't even like to clean, but I will start mopping and sweeping and doing laundry. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I only allow myself to work from home a couple times a week.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I feel you on that. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it's like the 80-20 rule though, because really we're only on stage 20% of the time.
Oh,
And the
totally.
80% of the time, if you don't have someone actively booking you, it's really business development.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I find in my business. Maybe because you have an agent, you don't have to do as much of the business development, which is a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have for new speakers that are wanting to get into an agency? Anything that they could do to be attractive to bureaus?
um, n- Not having served on the selection side, but having failed the first time around of applying, I think that there's two things specifically. One is find your message and own it.
Yes.
One my friend who was a coach that is the conference catalyst. That is his thing. He is
Oh,
he's a professional conference MC. Love it. Had never thought about it,
right.
and that's his thing. Another one of my friends, James, he does authentic leadership and really diving deep into what that means. And so finding what your story is, not someone else's story, finding your
Right.
story um, is going to be important because you are able to speak to it on such a better level and such a more personal level. So find it, name it, own it, and then own the website. um,
Yes.
and then we joke about the sizzle reel, but you need to have something. The video that I applied for with the agency was taken three-ish years ago, and it was me on stage doing almost like a little mini TED talk, but not an actual TED talk. And
Hmm.
that's what I used. The quality's not super great, but the message is. And so that's
Hmm.
what I even say, like, the quality's not amazing. And I've known for 5 or more years that I need a better video. And I've just not taken the time again because I used excuses and procrastination to say, well, I'll do it later when I have more money. I'll do it later when I have more money. Well, we never have more or enough money. But so I think it's just one where this spring I've committed to, a pretty good investment of here's what I'm going to do to get that video reel, to get an actual good video sizzle reel.
But it just proves that the most important part is the actual meat and the content and the
Mm-hmm.
substance of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because one of my clients, I do consulting, does like the visuals for like Metallica, like when they're on stage and like
Oh,
Judas
yeah.
Priest and everything. And he was showing me his sizzle reel that he made for himself of like all these bands he's worked with. I'm like, maybe I should be a rock star speaker and have him do it. But it was just like it was so engaging, and it's just you always think, oh, I have to get all these clips and it has to be perfect, but it's like you said, you just want to get it done. And
Well,
it's
and
so
people
so
want to see.
important because
Yeah.
that's where people are going to determine, will this person perform on stage? Will they
Exactly.
engage?
And that's what people want to see is people want to see what you're like on stage. What's your audience engagement? What's your message? What's everything? They don't really care about, the voiceover of you talking to someone in an audience offhand. They don't, there's
Hmm.
not a lot of the like, here's what I learned from attending Dan's amazing keynote. They want to see what my rapport is going to look like on a stage. At least that's what I've had people tell me.
Ah, Fantastic.
Mhm.
Wow, Dan, I have like a million more questions, but I know that our podcast is ending. How can people find you, stay in touch with you, get on your email list when your book comes out? Because I know they're going to want to buy it. Or if they want to hire you, maybe somebody's listening and they're at a college and they're like, we need help with our fraternity. Where
Mhm.
can they stay in touch with you?
So the best resource is going to be my website, which is danfaill.com. So that's DanFaill.com. I'm also on Twitter, Dan Faill. I'm on Instagram, Dan Faill. Because there's not that many Dan Fails in the world. So if anyone can reach out via that, contact information is there. If you're a college or a university looking at it, I can be found at campusspeak.com, CAMPUSPEAK.com. And so I just look forward to hearing from anyone, touching base, even if it's just to talk about any of the things that we've talked about today. I'm happy to help any way I can.
You're so sweet. See, that's that North Carolina, Southern California. I mean, Southern hospitality. I love it. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you, your service, and just what you're doing to empower the young men of the world. I just think it's so important. I'm such an advocate for men. I have a younger brother who's 28 years old, and he's a single father, and I just love men. I love fathers, and I think they need to have great role models. So
Exactly.
if somebody hasn't thanked you, I'm thanking you right now, Dan.
Thank
And
you.
I want to thank all of you for tuning in because I do this podcast for you. My intention is that you will hear something, you'll be inspired by something, you'll get a nugget of information because I believe that you are a messenger for a very, very important message and that we can't do it alone. There's so much to learn in the speaking industry. So, having wonderful mentors like Dan to give you his story and for me to share all the people that I've inspired by will help you to get out there and to really transform the world. So, thank you for tuning in. If you love the show, I'd love for you to give a great review on iTunes. Sharing is also caring, my friends. You could share it out on your Twitter, your Facebook, everywhere you can. People can listen to it on my website if they don't want to go to SoundCloud or iTunes. And remember that with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Thanks. Ciao. Thank you for tuning in to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. If you love this show, feel free to share it with friends. I believe sharing is caring. And when you write us a great review, your karma points will be adding up. And I'd like to give you something. If you love the show, you can download a free copy of my latest webinar, How to Get Paid 5 Steps to Be a Paid Speaker. You can download it at deborahderas.com, DeborahDeras.com/speak now. Remember, you are the messenger for the message. And with the power of synergy, anything is possible.